Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us to learn a little bit about our MA programs in clinical psychology and in cognitive and social processes at the Department of Psychological Science at Ball State University. I'm Stephanie Simon-Dack, and I am an associate professor at the Department of Psychological Science, and I'm also the director of the Cognitive and Social Processes program.
And my name is Lynn Littleford. I'm an associate professor and also the director of the clinical master's program in the Department of Psychological Science.
I'm Michael Moses. I am a second-year clinical psychology master's student.
And I'm Catherine Dahlman, and I'm a second year in the Cognitive and Social Processes master's program.
And so we're here to talk to you a little bit about the focus of our programs and the general purpose of our programs. So our programs, both master's programs, are specifically intended for doctoral preparation, so to prepare you to apply for and be admitted to PhD programs. In doing that, we focus on research skills and experience, and we also really want to make sure that you get matched with a good mentor, that you have a good relationship with somebody who can help walk you through those research skills that you're going to need. We focus on professional development, and we also focus on gaining the appropriate core courses you're going to need and the methodological and quantitative skills you're going to need for our programs.
So before we go to that slide, I wanted to share that recently we revamped our clinical master's program based on the results of a national survey that we conducted and responses from over 220 doctoral programs in psychology revealed to us that what they're looking for from master's level applicants to their doctoral programs are research experience. They're not as interested in clinical internship experience. Only 2.4% of the programs actually require students to have clinical experience. So what we have found is that the data suggests that students would be a lot more competitive for doctoral programs in psychology if they've gotten a lot of research experience. So we have revamped our curriculum to make sure that students have ample opportunities to not only learn the research skills, but also have opportunities to work with faculty members to do research.
Absolutely. And we have a variety of different research interests for our faculty for students to be involved in. Some of them are on the screen right now. So personality assessment, human sexuality, the psychology of language, sleep habits. We also have experimental psychology interests such as electrophysiology and developmental psychology, prejudice and discrimination, cultural diversity, just to name a few of the things that our faculty research. And you can find a fairly comprehensive list of these on our website, which we'll be making sure that you see later on in this presentation.
Another point I wanted to make about the research opportunities that students have in our program is regardless of which program they're admitted into, whether it's a clinical or a cognitive social processes program, they can work with all of our faculty members or any one of them. So there are lots of opportunities for students to work closely with faculty members because we don't restrict students from specific programs to work with specific faculty members. Also, we accept about 10 students a year for each program, so there are ample opportunities for students to work closely with our faculty members.
And I know I work with clinical students as well as students from the Cognitive and Social Processes program in my lab.
So another unique aspect about our master's program is that we're able to offer about half of our incoming students departmental assistantships. So what that means is that they'll work with faculty members to do research, and some students actually help with teaching for 20 hours a week in exchange for tuition remission, so they don't have to pay for most of the tuition fees, and then they get a stipend on top of that. So we're fortunate that we're able to have the funding to provide to half of our incoming students. Now currently, I think there's only one student out of, I think, almost 40 students who does not have an assistantship. The other students in our department have assistantships from other departments. So we're really fortunate that our students have these financial resources to them.
And another highlight of our program is that while there are other MA programs in the country that have EEG and event-related potential labs available, most of them are not terminal master's programs like ours. So we're very fortunate as a terminal master's program to have EEG and event-related potentials resources available for students to use. And I've had students complete their theses using these technologies. We also have access to things like SPSS, Qualtrics survey software and computer labs for the students.
So our clinical psychology master's program provides students with some theoretical foundations of clinical psychology. So students would take classes in assessment, psychotherapy, diversity, and psychopathology. We also offer students some, can you click on the next one?
Sure.
Thank you. Some optional concentrations. So when we revamped our program recently, we wanted to make sure that students have the ability to tailor their educational experiences so that they would be able to accomplish their professional goals. So our students have the option of selecting a clinical/counseling concentration. So these are students who are really interested in exploring clinical or counseling PhD programs, and so they would get some clinical therapy experience while they're here. Other students who might not want to do psychotherapy might be interested in assessment. We have an optional concentration for them to choose from as well. And then students who are interested in doing cultural diversity work, they have a concentration to choose from. We, as I mentioned, do not require students to do internship anymore because we found that very few programs actually require that. So we want our students to have as much time as possible to do other things that would help them be even more competitive for doctoral programs. But we do have internship options available for students, and we have an internship coordinator who helps students find the appropriate internships for them. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike to share with us about his internship experience.
Yeah, so currently right now I work with Dr. Sander. She is in the Educational Psychology Department. Right now we are on a project at the Muncie's Youth Opportunity Center where we work with legal involved adolescents, and we employ different reading strategies to measure automaticity.
And do you enjoy that?
Yes, I do.
That's great. And so some of the things, sort of future goals for our students are to apply for doctoral programs. And if they don't apply for doctoral programs, they choose to go into employment in a variety of settings. So we have some of the doctoral programs include Louisiana State University, South Florida University, Colorado State, and these are just a few of them. We have a comprehensive list on our website showing all of the various doctoral programs that our students have been admitted to. And in terms of employment, there are all sorts of different ways that students can go with their clinical MA, including professional research assistant, adolescent program consultant, and inpatient therapist. And actually, we are going to hear from a couple of students who have gone on from our clinical MA program into doctoral programs.
Hi, I'm Meredith Bucher. And I'm Keisha Novak. And we both graduated from Ball State's Clinical Psychology Master's Program in 2015. We're actually both fortunate enough to be admitted to the same cohort at Purdue University's PhD program in clinical psychology. Currently, I'm working with Dr. Dan Fody, conducting research using psychophysiological methods, specifically EEG and ERP, to investigate reward processing as well as psychotic disorders. And I'm currently working with Dr. Doug Samuel, and we primarily focus on personality and personality psychopathology, specifically the psychometrics and clinical utility behind how we measure and diagnose these disorders. So I think I could say that it's pretty clear that we couldn't have been this successful without our experiences that we gained through our time at Ball State. We both feel as if we were able to benefit from the research experiences that were offered to us. Personally, my EEG training with Dr. Simon Dack really helped me to be able to hit the ground running when I got here to Purdue, which led to a Graduate Student Publication Award and a training grant. Yeah, and my work with Dr. Forby gave me a lot of experience in personality and psychopathology measurement, so I was able to start working with Dr. Samuel on writing a chapter for an encyclopedia and thinking about projects as soon as I was accepted. We both also completed an empirical master's thesis while at Ball State, and we were able to have that transferred here to Purdue and present this research at several conferences. We also both feel as if the classes that we took at Ball State definitely prepared us for their workload at a doctorate level. The classes definitely helped us improve our writing and general critical thinking skills. Ball State's program also offered workshops for those interested in applying to doctorate programs. These workshops are really beneficial because we were able to refine the types of programs we were interested in applying to, as well as our personal statements and CVs. As a bonus, some of the classes that we completed at Ball State were considered comparable at the doctorate level courses here at Purdue, and we were able to get them waived. So this gave us more time to work on research and get ahead in projects that we were working on. Another thing about Ball State was that we both completed a clinical internship, and those hours were able to count for applying clinical internship at the end of our program here at Purdue. This actually put us a year ahead of our other cohort members.
We really appreciate everything that Ball State's Clinical Psychology Master's Program helped us achieve.
My one piece of advice is to take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you at Ball State. It will definitely put you one step closer to your end goal, whether that be more research-oriented or clinically oriented.
So now that we've heard a little bit about the clinical program, I'm going to talk for a moment about the Cognitive and Social Processes Master's Program. This program will give you solid foundations in cognitive psychology and in social psychology, with students taking core courses in statistics, in methods, in memory, in cognition, and in social psychology themselves. Students will also have the option of completing certificates that are offered at Ball State that can often enhance their resumes when they go onto the market or onto doctoral programs. We have multiple different certificate options, including a very popular one in our program in institutional research, certificates in statistics, in applied behavior analysis, and also in criminal justice and criminology. And in fact, Catherine Dahlman is completing that certificate right now, and so I'm going to let her speak to that a little bit.
Hi, yeah, so I am completing the Criminal Justice and Criminology Graduate Certificate, and it's been a really great experience because you get to work with faculty outside of the department. You know, if you have an interest in something that maybe there isn't a faculty member inside the department that you could work with, and there are only 4 courses in order to get the certificate, so it's really attainable, especially in the Cognitive and Social Processes program.
Thanks, Catherine. And so some of the places that our students move on to from the Cog and Social Processes program include Michigan State, Florida International, Iowa State University, to name a few, and they also go on to find employment as senior research analysts, research coordinators, administrative analysts, and other such things. And we're actually going to hear from a student who has completed the Cognitive and Social Processes program and where he's gone to next.
Hello, my name is Corey Paul. I graduated in 2013 from the Master's in Cognitive and Social Processes program at Ball State. I'm currently the Senior Research Analyst of Institutional Research at Dickinson College in Central Pennsylvania. I got the position just after leaving the Master's program. I actually didn't think that I was quite qualified for the position, as I was asking for several years of experience in research. Specifically institutional research, but the institutional research certificate program was certainly enough to get my foot in the door. But the other skills that I learned in the master's program were in statistics and research methods and psychological processes and measurement and all of that were invaluable to getting the position. I loved the program. It's a smaller program with just a handful of students, but there's not a sort of competition between students. We all just kind of wanted to work through it together, and it was quite an experience of camaraderie and lifelong friendships. And everyone that I know that came from the program actually ended up quite successful. It's an excellent program, and I hope you consider it.
So our purpose of this webinar today is to share with you information about our programs, and our goal is to give you the information so that you can make an informed decision about whether our program would be a good match for you. If you are interested in getting a PhD in clinical psychology, counseling psych, social psych, cognitive psych, or community psych, you should definitely apply to this program. If you're interested in applying to cognitive neuroscience, quantitative psych, communication studies, legal psych, and social psych, this program would help prepare you to get into those PhD programs. But if you're looking to practice psychotherapy at the master's level, our program would not be a good match for you. If you know for sure you don't want a PhD, or you think that you're interested in pursuing a PsyD, our program would not be beneficial to you. If you want to be a forensic psychologist, or if you're not at all interested in research, or if you want to go to marketing or business program, this would not be a good match for you. Our program wouldn't be. Okay.
So our application deadline is February 1st, and the departmental and graduate school applications will both be due at that time. They are two separate applications. You need to apply to both. And we do have information about that on our website. When we are looking at admission criteria, we look at the whole person. So we rate applicants highly who have research interests that match our faculty interests and some research experience, but we don't look at specific numbers. So we're not as concerned about the minimum GPA or the minimum GPA or GRE requirements. We don't care about those as much. We look overall at your essays, at your experiences, at your letters of reference. And while we do require GREs, those aren't a major, they don't rate any higher than any of the criteria that we're looking at. While we do not require interviews, we do suggest that you contact faculty who you may be interested in. Their details are on our webpage as well. So, is there anything else? I think we can go to questions now. So,
It looks like someone has submitted a question asking, are there minimum GPA and GRE requirements for acceptance into the program? As Dr. Simon Dax said, we don't have a minimum GRE score that we require. The graduate school at Ball State does require that students have a 2.5 GPA in order to be admitted. So the majority of our students have above 2.5 GPA. I believe the average is 3.3, but just because you have less than a 3.3 GPA does not mean that you shouldn't apply, especially if you think that our program offers the resources that would help you accomplish your professional goals. Just remember that we look at the big picture. So really emphasize to us your research interests, and if there are research interests that you have that match up with faculty's research interests, that's the key to getting into our program. So that's what we look for.
yeah. And then another question is, what is the acceptance rate for our program?
It's about 30%. So I think it is a reasonable acceptance rate. In other words, you have a decent chance of getting admitted, but it's still competitive. So make sure you look at our website for information regarding what we're looking for when we make admission decisions to enhance the likelihood that you'll be able to get admitted to our program.
And then here's one for the graduate students. What does the average week of a graduate student look like in our program?
It's actually very challenging, but often, I find that the work you do is very interesting, so you really do stay engaged.
Yeah, the average week, if you have an assistantship, you're required to put in 20 hours on top of your coursework, which is probably an average of 9 to 12 credit hours, I would say. So you're going to have to be devoting a lot of time to it, but like Mike said, you're enjoying what you're doing, so it doesn't feel as rigorous as maybe it could be.
And then are students required to complete a thesis?
We do not require students to complete a thesis. We strongly encourage them to do so, and we also make opportunities available so that they could complete a thesis. So, for example, starting this year, our incoming students take 2 research methods courses. The first research methods course helps them come up with a thesis proposal, review the literature, come up with a methodology, and then the second research methods class is where they're going to learn to collect the data, analyze the data, and write up the discussion section. So by the end of their first year here, students should be able to use that project as their thesis if they choose to do that. So.
Yeah. And what internship opportunities are available?
We have an internship coordinator who works with students and trying to figure out what their interests are, what their professional goals are, and she is pretty good with connecting with people in the community in Muncie as well as in Indianapolis and nearby cities. And so students have gone to assessment internships. They've worked at the Youth Opportunity Center. They work at the Counseling Center. So, and then we actually had a student who did an internship working with refugees in Indianapolis. And so the internships that students would end up going to would depend on their interests and on the connections that our internship coordinator has.
And then we have a question I think the student should answer, which is, can you tell me more about the social atmosphere, both in the department and in general?
Yes, the social atmosphere is very supportive. It's also very, very helping, very warming. I feel like here at Ball State in our department, we fairly, for the most part, feel open to talk with our faculty, and we get a lot of support from other students.
I would agree with what Mike said. All the students want to see all the other students succeed, so it's a very, we call it a cohort, it's very cohesive, and yeah.
And I think it helps that in Colloquium, which is a class that meets once a week for about an hour, students are able to talk about some of the issues that they're experiencing, feelings that they have as they start graduate school. I'm aware that this year's class have talked about the imposter syndrome. You know, when you are here and you're looking around and everyone seems so much smarter than you, you know, you feel like you don't belong. And it's kind of nice that they share that in the colloquium and realize that everyone's feeling that way too. So there's this normalization and validation that occurs, and I think that brings the cohort closer
So we do
together.
have a professional development colloquium once a week for those kinds of things, both cohort building as well as professional development, such as being able to listen to professionals in your area speak, to give talk on your own thesis, to do resume development, et cetera.
Right. Also, we have, this year we've done a departmental picnic, so it's an opportunity to eat and to have grad students interact
food is important.
with faculty members so that they have a chance to talk informally. Last year, I think it was one of your ideas, right, was to do something like a cook-off or something. So we did a departmental cook-off.
We're doing that again this spring.
We are, yes. And the winner of the cook-off gets this prize. It's a chef, it's a statue of a chef that's a frog, right?
It's excellent.
So you want to come here so you can, you know, have the honor of having that in your office, I believe.
And then another question that's come in is, does completing a certificate add to the time of completion of the master's? So does it take more than 2 years with this certificate?
No, typically students are here for 2 years, and usually if they do a thesis, they will stay here until after the summer of their second year. And so the way that we have set up our curriculum, students should be able to finish everything that they need to, including doing a certificate within that 2-year period. So in the summer, if you have a departmental assistantship, you don't have to be a graduate assistant. You don't have to work with professors. So the summer is all yours. So you can take classes and still get that tuition remission benefit. So most of our students do take summer classes. Some of them take them online while they're at home, and others take it here. But so if you take some summer classes, you should be able to finish in 2 years.
Absolutely. And it looks like another question is, are there helpful classes to take while finishing up one's BA, I think, for getting into our program? And so I would say you definitely want to make sure you have some statistics background and a research methods class. Most psychology BAs will require you to take those anyway. And probably research experience is something to try to get while you're a junior or a senior. So working in a lab on an independent study or supervised research with a faculty, all of those will help make you more competitive.
And definitely try to take some writing classes. Writing skills
Are valued.
Yeah, are valued and take a lot of practice. And so if you can find opportunities to practice your writing, especially writing literature reviews, psychological literature review, that would help quite a bit.
Absolutely. And that seems to be all the questions. We really appreciate you guys tuning in again. Hopefully we could help you. Hopefully you can visit our website and learn more about it. And thank you so much for attending our webinar.